waiting and waiting and waiting. Oh my goodness. And I got your text. I'm like, I text you and then I'm like, oh, yes.
How you doing today, my sister?
I am honored. I am fabulous.
No, we are honored. Actually,
And
we
I
are honored.
to share the knowledge. I have is for everybody.
Oh man, I was like, oh, what is going on?
So sorry. So
It
that's
is
like
all good.
so
I
I
see we.
have Bob in the background.
Hi,
So
Bob.
if you see him move, don't even talk. I don't even want to know.
Oh man, I see. We coordinated that actually. That's a good
Yeah,
thing. Unintentionally, that is great.
yeah.
So how
So
you doing today?
I had a great day.
Mm.
Yes, I had a great day. I had classes. Got to hang out with my granddaughter
Oh, that is great.
and one of my black belts. And that training black belts is so much fun because their martial arts IQ is so high. And so you
Oh wow.
go into detail and then out into they're into the head. Actually green belts and higher
Yeah,
are pretty cool. Yeah,
yeah. No pain, no gain, my sister.
yeah, yeah. Hmm.
Yeah, I had a wonderful day today. Work was real good.
Good.
Busy. NBC is a crazy place to work, but
Yeah, I could
you know,
imagine.
yeah,
A lot of different personalities, boy.
yeah, definitely a lot of different personalities.
Goes, you know.
Yeah, being a chef is crazy, but we got to do what
Yeah,
we got to do.
yeah. But if
Mhm.
you the chef, and I'm not gonna hold this up, but your demeanor is very important because
It
your
is.
energy goes into your food.
It is definitely.
And, I can't eat from an angry person. That 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 sour anger goes into the food.
Yeah, we got to put in that love. Show
Yeah,
love to make love.
exactly.
We got to definitely put in that love.
That's right.
Yeah, but tell us okay, born February 26, 1962. Tell us about growing up in the Bronx and what was it like for you, as a person. I mean, what was the climate like?
Well, this was 1962,
Hmm.
and I was reared in the Bronx.
Okay.
So I knew nothing for the first probably 18 years of my life. The
Wow.
the Bronx, and it was home. It was safe, even though we were in the projects. Okay,
Hmm.
so we were actually in a co-op that was four buildings that was bought by somebody that was supposed to be part of the projects.
All righty.
What they did, they put this fence around it, and it's like, okay, you're not part of the projects, you're a co-op.
Oh
And
wow.
hired guard dogs, guards with their dogs that would walk
Mhm.
around and patrol just those four buildings. And then everywhere else, we were just surrounded by projects. We were close to the highway, literally. We were right off the highway.
Mhm.
So all I knew was traffic. That was what we were. Our buildings were like 15 stories high.
Wow.
So
What
we
area was that?
this was southeast East Bronx.
Okay.
For those who are my age, I'm 58.
Hmm.
It's by the Corvettes.
Okay. All right.
Stevenson High School is that, and White Plains and Story Avenue, Taylor Avenue, Soundview,
All right.
uh,
All right. All right.
the Monroe projects.
Hmm.
And I guess as a little girl, it was phenomenal.
Yeah.
You had thousands of friends. Everybody, our building faced the playground.
Oh wow.
So you would go play, and your mom would call out the window, and then you had to go upstairs. In those days, you didn't fear anything. You didn't fear pedophiles, and I'm sure
Wow.
they existed, but they weren't as prevalent.
Yes.
You never heard of human trafficking. You never heard
Hmm.
of abduction. You heard of, I think the word they used was perverts.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
per-
Yeah.
perverts.
Yeah. Stay
Uh,
away from that pervert.
yeah, yeah, like, he's a pervert. And so you always had that intuition, even as a child, that
Hmm.
something doesn't feel right. This person's not doesn't have the best agenda, and so you kind of stayed away. I remember, so my father was brown skinned, my mother was light skinned.
Oh
And
wow.
remember, my father was trying to explain to me what white was, what white people were. And I was
Mhm.
like, well, that just looked kind of like me. I don't know what the difference is. And I was like,
Wow.
this is hard. And it wasn't like I was exposed to racism, but he was trying to kind of alert me that I'm not going to necessarily be treated the way I felt to be, the way I feel to be treated, or the way he was raising me to be treated like a queen, because society where we're at doesn't necessarily see us the same way.
Yeah.
Now, my parents are Jamaican. I was born and raised though in America, so which I consider a Jamaican.
All right.
Um, um, and I'm proud of everything. I'm proud of
Mhm.
my Jamaican and my American. Uh, but I'm more American where I don't know where I belong if I went to Jamaica. I don't know anybody there, and
Yeah.
so I know Jamaican food. I
All
know a
right.
little
Do you know
which
what
is
part of Jamaica that your family originally from?
my mother's from Spanish Town. My father's from
Okay.
King. Yeah, yeah,
From Kingston?
Kingston.
Oh, all right. So both your wow, both of them are from Yard. Yard of God.
Yes, yes, I got that. Too. And it's the craziest part is my youngest son, who played pro basketball, has his dual citizenship.
Oh,
Now
that's
his father's
dope.
American, but because of my lineage, he's able to get a Jamaican passport and his
Oh, that's nice.
citizenship. So he has an American, and he was born in America,
Mhm.
and his Jamaican.
Oh, that's
So
dope.
I'm like, I need to go get my Jamaican passport and citizenship too. Put out here,
Is
you know,
it-
I'm Jamaican. Because I understand it's hard to even fly anywhere right now
I
with
know. Oh my goodness. I mean,
Americans are taboo. It's
the
crazy.
the situation. I'm originally from Dominican, the Caribbean. That's Lower Antilles,
Yes,
and
yes,
and right now it is crazy going on there. You have to quarantine for 2 weeks
yeah,
before
yeah.
you can get in, and you have to pay 1,500. It is,
Wow.
yeah, it is crazy right now. So with me, I pre-ordered my tickets for next year for Carnival,
Hmm.
like in February, but
Right.
hopefully everything will be good by the time I have to go down. So we'll see how that goes.
Yeah.
Were you close to your mother and your father?
Yes. Yes.
That's nice.
Um, I, I am proud to say that my parents been together since death do their part. My father
Wow.
passed, which was about 20 years ago, and then my
Mm,
mother passed about 2 years ago.
wow.
So they've been, yeah. And I was blessed that my father and my mother were. There was me and two sisters. We were their priority, and we
Wow.
felt like they are their priority. Now I didn't realize how lucky I am with having that type of childhood,
Hmm.
until I started teaching all the women that I started teaching, and
Yeah.
I would hear the stories of situations and scenarios that occurred that they had completely no control of. Imagine as a child, you can't say, "Nah, I don't want her as a mother, but I want her as a mother. I want her." Like, we don't have a choice. And as a child, we are completely at the mercy of our guardians,
Yeah. Yeah.
and that is whoever they leave us with,
Hmm.
how they feed us, how they take care of us, our shelter is, are we safe? And I even remember at one point I spoke to one woman that she knew at 3 years old, that she knew what pure fear was from
Yeah.
3 years old. Pure
Wow.
fear. And I even knew one woman who had told me that at 5, she quickly learned how to bathe herself from 5 years old so her mother could stop molesting her during bath time, because that
Mm,
would be the time that the mother would molest her, is during bath time. So she quickly learned how to bathe herself. And
wow.
so, hear stories like that, I'm like, oh, ma, dad, I'm so blessed. I'm so blessed to have. And and that is, when you think of the first primal years of your life, the second year, the third year, everything that occurs within that time sticks with you
Yeah.
and molds you and determines how you process things for the
Yeah.
rest of your life.
Yes. So which one were you closer to? You were you a daddy's girl or a little of both?
I was the middle child.
All right.
So
All right.
I wasn't really daddy's girl, but I didn't feel neglected. I was definitely a troubled teenager.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I would experiment with drugs. I really wasn't into a lot of boys. I I learned very early that respecting my body was a temple, was
Mm-hmm.
very important. So I wasn't promiscuous and stuff
All
like
right.
that.
Yeah.
Um, and so I wasn't that type of experimenting, but
Mm-hmm.
I was like trying to be the tough kid. I think being light skinned, where people couldn't figure out, is she Puerto Rican? Is she white? Is she black? What is she? What is
Coolie?
she?
Is she
Now,
coolie?
what I would, well, I'm from New York, so
Yeah.
I wasn't asked if I was Native American or
Yeah.
Cuban.
Yeah.
I was thought of maybe as Puerto Rican or light skin and stuff like that. And I guess, that condoms, where that assumption that because you're light skin, you're soft or you're
Mm-hmm.
weak. So I had to develop thick skin very quickly,
Yeah.
especially just because I didn't live in the projects didn't mean I didn't hang out in the projects, and it didn't mean I didn't go to school with friends who lived in the projects.
Mm-hmm.
So I was tried because I was light skinned, tall, had long hair. Um, I was in that category. She thinks she cute. And I'm like, you know how you gonna assume I think I'm cute,
Think she all
And
that?
uh,
Nah, the way they say, she thinks she all
yeah,
that.
and the minute I hear that, I knew we were gonna fight. I was like, okay, here we go. Um, but I knew from a very young age. I remember, I think from the third grade, I was bullied one time
Mm-hmm.
by someone who was probably in like the fifth grade. And
Mm-hmm.
just those 2 years, that's a big jump. They're a
Yes.
lot taller, a lot mature. The mental state is even different. And I was scared. I remember being scared. It was in the bathroom. But I remember I didn't like that. And
Is
and
that
I
when
didn't.
is that when you went to Adlai E. Stevenson High School?
No,
You talking
I
about?
was in third grade. I was in
Okay,
PS
all
100.
right. All right, PS 100.
And I couldn't tell you who bullied me because it wasn't even that important. It was just one girl who did it one time. And I knew
Mm-hmm.
I didn't like it. And I knew that that wasn't going to happen to me again.
Mm.
And I knew that I wasn't going to start a fight, but I wasn't going to back away from a fight. I remember that from then, that I was never going to back away from a fight again.
So that's
Um,
mm.
so I more became like a bully slayer. And so what
Oh.
that means, I,
Wow.
no, seriously, I was the one that if I seen you bullying somebody, I was going to beat you up in
Well,
front of the person you bullied, and then hold you down so the person you bullying will beat your ass. And
that's
that was like yeah, I'm going to reverse the tide on the bully. I didn't look. I didn't understand the psychological aspect of what was going on with the bully. That the
Mhm.
bully would have a pure insecurity in themselves, and to try to reflect that insecurity by causing pain on someone else.
Yeah.
Because what I actually did probably made the situation worse, and um, for the bully at least, not for the victim. But
Well, that is funny because you know the
uh,
title of your you know the title of your of this podcast for you is Warrior Queen. Warrior Queen is the title of
oh,
your podcast.
okay, that's cool. But what I like to do is bring out the warrior queen in women. So
All
it's
right.
very, but it's not that I'm the warrior queen, that whoever's watching becomes a warrior queen.
Wow.
And so I'm hoping by the end of this show, through me demonstrating on Bob or my words of wisdom or what I'm sharing or just kind of life experience that I bring out the best in that person,
That's dope.
what they see in themselves.
Well, tell us about going to LA Stevenson High School, and were you interested in academics or sports? What was it like?
No, oh boy, I was from the Boogie Down Bronx, and it was the start of hip hop, and every
Oh my
weekend they
God.
had block
Yeah.
parties. Go to the block parties and listen to the DJ. I was still, we would travel on the train, and we were fearless. And this was during the 70s, and I'm sure there were more perverts because I was growing, and then were hitting on me. And I was like, oh, not really. But I was also friends were like priority to me, my girlfriends, and how I looked, and
uh,
attracting guys, trying to attract this amazing guy that. And I dated here and there, but I was still very particular. I did like experiment a lot with drugs. I was a problem child. My poor mom. My mom being a first generation immigrant, she focused on, she was a little lonely where she didn't have a lot of friends.
hmm
Um, she she didn't go out a lot, and so uh, I didn't see her life like I should have respected it, like I
hmm
should have.
Yeah.
I did get high. When I say get high, it wasn't hard stuff. It definitely wasn't meth or heroin. It was reefer.
Yeah.
Um, I was smoking cigarettes. I could tell you it was Newport,
We're smoking
and
the yard thing, the yard stick. They call it
yeah.
Jamaicans call it yard stick.
Oh, Newport was yardstick, really?
Nah, you said a little weed, so
Oh,
you know.
yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, and I remember like the brand was like Acapulco Gold or Chunky Black, or you had these variations and Panama Red and all that stuff. I
These
was into
names they come
that.
up with, these names, they come up with these names.
Well, that was the 70s. I mean, I don't even know what they're doing now. Um, but that was a big part of my life, partying and hanging out with my friends. And I did work. I worked in B. Altman and Company, which doesn't exist now, but it was kind of like
Uh,
a bourgeois Saks Fifth Avenue. So I had that split lifestyle. I started working at B. Altman's when I was 16, and I had to work with predominantly snobby, elderly white people. So I
mhm.
would travel during the weekend to this retail outlet and be patient. And then when I leave, I was a hood rat again in the Bronx, and quite clear. And I knew how to adjust to the lifestyles. So I was exposed to a lot of polished stuff, but I was,
Yeah.
still a chick from the Bronx.
hmm
And so once I graduated from um, Stevenson High School, was
hmm
when I went to LaGuardia and I met my husband. And I
Okay.
was I was able to meet him,
hmm
and I I think in my senior year I realized that I needed to buckle down more. I didn't pay attention in school. I didn't have the best of education.
All right.
I had teachers, some of them who I guess cared, but they some who didn't. They didn't care for those who didn't care,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
they pushed us so much, and they focused on those who did. And I was unfortunately one of those who didn't care. I was like, I remember actually I threatened a teacher to give me an A, and she did, and that was really bad. And poor, please forgive me, but that teacher. Um, I remember I was very popular in high school. I remember wanting the popularity so badly, and when I got it, I didn't want it.
Oh
I didn't
wow.
like it. Like everybody knowing who I was and knowing everything about me, or
Oh.
thinking they knew everything, or assumed they knew everything about me. And people walk up at me and say hi to me, and I didn't know who they were. And it's like, be careful what you ask for. That was
Yeah,
my
I was
lesson.
about to say the same thing.
Be careful what you
Sometimes
ask for.
be careful for that.
Yeah, and just certain things is people I wasn't really a victim to horrible rumors. I think high school was a great time for me, but I couldn't wait to get out of it. I outgrew it very quickly. I started
Mm,
dating a guy who was a lot older than me when I was in my senior year. He was in his early 20s, and I was probably 17.
uh,
And but he said to me, "You need to get good grades, and you need to," and that really grew me up. That was
mm,
like, really? Why do I need to? What am I going to do with that? What do you know? Because I'm from the street, I don't need this. I can survive, and I remember selling weed at junior high school to friends.
wow.
So um, I wasn't like a pure hood rat, but I dipped and dabbed in things.
Yeah.
Um, Kill anybody. I never got raped. And I'm just gonna put it out there. I never and I know that I was from an era that you need a street credit, and
Yeah.
stuff like that. You don't have no street credit. And I'm like, I'm glad I don't have street credit. I'll tell you right there. I'm so glad I don't have street credit. I'm glad I don't have someone's death on my soul. Like you don't realize that you're going to pay that price later on. This is
Uh,
not something that should go away. You
yeah.
have to face
Definitely.
it later on. And so that's, when you're in the street, you're not thinking because you're so engulfed with the noise of survival that you
Yes.
don't
Yeah.
realize you lose who you are and the quality of
Yeah.
who you are. And so once I got into LaGuardia, I wasn't dating that guy anymore. I started meeting my husband, and him being 11 years older than me. So
Wow.
here I am 18, he's 29, you know, and as far as I was concerned, we were a perfect match, you know.
So tell me
And
this. Tell me this. You go to LaGuardia. What was the styles back then? Was it Lottos? Was it Lees? Was it gold chains? Because it was the whole hip hop era. Was it
yeah,
to Adidas?
yeah. But when I started going to LaGuardia, I started dressing up. I
Uh
mean, I was like,
oh.
I worked in Altman's, so I had access to some of the clothes that a lot of people didn't have access
Yeah.
to. And I wasn't in high school where I was wearing Lees and combat boots, and on Fridays I would have a handful of bracelets in case I got into a fight.
Uh,
I don't know why I was
mm.
thinking I was always going to get into a fight on Friday. This is in high school though, not in college. In college, I literally transformed because LaGuardia is in Queens, so I was getting out of the Bronx. Um, I wasn't I wasn't dealing with the people around the neighborhood as much. So the only
Mm.
time you seen me once I graduated from high school, was heading to the subway or heading to what we call a gypsy cab. A gypsy cab were those cars, and this is tell you, boy, we really took chances. We would like jump into a car and assume it was going to take us to the nearest subway station, and we just pay it like a token, like what you
Hmm.
pay the bus. And um and you just knew, you had that instinct, you knew it was a gypsy cab. They just had a look about them, but they could have been like a lot of predators, and it was just crazy. and
Yeah.
um and you were just fearless. You had to be, because any sign of fear was a sign of weakness, and you'd be eaten alive by
Uh,
anybody, including friends.
yes.
um
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah. Tell us about having your first son, Kiyomba.
Okay. If I can go
Yep.
back, it's
All right.
okay, because in high
Definitely.
school,
Definitely.
this is an important part, um, a part of my life that kind of structured me and my mindset, was me being stalked by a local drug dealer.
Mm.
And he wasn't a big time drug dealer, but so I was about 14, I think, when he approached me, and he might have been about 22.
Wow.
And I knew from that was like the creepiest thing, this grown ass man coming on to me. And I, for some reason, at 14, you're like, oh man, I got it like that. I got some man hitting on me. But even I remember I would have been like that with anybody but him. I knew this was like, ugh. Why are you even talking to me? Why you think you can, come on, you a grown ass man. That's creepy. And that was my response to him, like, hey, how you doing? Like, why would you even talk to me? I'm a kid, and I wasn't rude, but I was direct.
Yes.
I was just
Very
talking.
cautious also.
Huh? Yeah, but I was
Very
just,
cautious.
but why would you think it's okay for you to talk to me?
Yeah.
Like I was common sense, like, duh,
Yeah.
And I think the more I pushed him away, the more he became attracted to that.
Mm.
And over the years, he would find my number. He knew what building he monitored me, he watched me, and he stalked me for 4 years. Out of those
Wow.
4 years, I remember he followed me into my building, and I tried, and he got into the door. He touched my leg, and I slapped him, and then we literally got into a fight. I mean, we fought like two men, but I got my ass kicked because this guy was all right. And what stopped him from hitting me was a woman coming in the building.
Mm.
And so he left, but apparently I gave him a black eye. He gave me a black eye too, but I gave him a black eye. So because I gave him a black eye, he started looking for kids around my in my building and saying that they jumped him because of me. And he started beating them up. So nobody in my building liked me because I
Mm.
got them beaten up by this guy, even though I didn't do it purposely.
Yeah.
That was one time that he hit me. The second time that he hit me, I remember I was 17. I was just graduated from high school. I was going to the Paradise Garage to celebrate that I was graduating. I used to I used to go to the Paradise Garage on Saturdays too. And I would take the train by myself. And I mean, this is like, we're talking 11 o'clock at night, it's like ruthless, stupid stuff. But
That's some late night right there.
what?
11 o'clock at that age. Oh my goodness.
Oh yeah. I mean, like the party doesn't start till 2 o'clock in the morning. And the garage doesn't end till like 5 o'clock in the morning.
I know.
So you come home when so you're literally there all day, all night. And I remember I was coming from my building, I was all dressed up, and I had to, and what it is in the Bronx, there's a lot of guys that like to hang out on the bench. And that was, the hangout was on the bench. And you're like, oh, I got to walk past these people. You don't know who it is, everybody, but you're just trying to mind your business. And someone called me from the group, and I just ignored it and kept walking. And he said, I'm calling you. I'm like, and I did like that. Like, who are you talking to, right? I don't even know who you are. And I kept walking. So he ran up behind me and slapped me. And I was in this, and all I was thinking about, I'm not fighting this man because I got my dress on. I got this fabulous dress on. So I told him that I'm gonna get some people to kill him. That's that's how you talk in the street. I'm gonna fuck you up now. You're gonna die now tonight. You better hide, bitch. I'm sorry.
Did you ever tell your dad about this?
So that was the time. Yeah, my family knew, and it was crazy because there was a street code that you don't go to the police. You just deal with it yourself.
Yeah.
And I had guys who came to me and said, if you sleep with me, I'll beat him up for you. And I wasn't going to do that.
Yeah,
So I
definitely.
had to kind of deal with him. And then there was a situation where I did have a boyfriend one time, and he beat up the boyfriend. So he was like, he literally terrorized. And one incident, at that time, second time that he hit me, I did get my dad, and my dad got some friends, and we went looking for him, and of course he would disappear like he always do. At one other time, he would walk up on me, like I'm heading home from school, or I'm going. He would call my house when I would come home from school, tell me he didn't like what I had on because he's out there watching me leave the bus. And this went on for 4 years. One time he told me he was going to pay a crackhead $5 to pour lye on my face. So that was terrifying because I didn't know who to trust and who not to trust, who was going to come after me because he was getting people after me. And of course that never happened, thank God.
Yeah.
But the reason why I brought that up was because I thought this man ruined my teenage years. I remember leaving every time I left my building to go wherever, whether it was the grocery store, whether it was to a party, whether it was to meet my friend, whether it was to go to school, I always felt scared.
Mm.
And fear was a part of my adolescence. You know, it was a part of it that it became the normal. You know, that I remember even one time I snuck out my father's gun, you know, out the house, you know,
Wow.
and said, you know, if you come near me, I'm gonna have to shoot him, you know. And but I remember though when I went into uh but I think what was so amazing to him is he couldn't break me.
Yeah.
You know, he just like I really tried to damage her. I really tried to tear her down. I really tried to scare her. And every time he approached me, I was like, what do you want? You know, I was like, you know, like I never gave him that satisfaction to let him know that he scared me.
Yeah.
Never. And I never let my friends know. And my
Mhm.
friends knew. It's like, yeah, I saw him the other day. He came to me and told me to tell you that you better not come. I mean, this was a grown ass man doing this to me, you know? And and
Grown ass,
so
grown ass immature man, actually.
yeah, it was crazy. It was like he was like a neighborhood bully.
Yeah.
And what had happened was he didn't see me that often because I started going to LaGuardia. I was dating my husband,
Mhm.
and I was staying with my husband house, and I didn't see him that much. So he went after my sister, my younger
Mhm.
sister, saying, you know, some trying to find out where I was. And I was like, oh, he's not doing this to my sister. And so I told my husband about it, but it wasn't because I wasn't around the neighborhood. But when he
Mhm.
approached my sister, I said, you know, so my husband and I drove out there and we drove in front of his building and he was right outside. And I was
Mhm.
like, perfect. This is perfect, right? That tells me stay in the car.
Mhm.
What? 4 years of terror and you're going to tell me to stay in the car? No, I want to go outside. I want to see you beat his ass. I want to see, you know, you know, this was like, this is the moment. And so he said, get in the car. He said, stay in the car. He went out. And Mel, the guy already saw me in the car. So when he saw my husband was at the time was my boyfriend get out the car, he knew it was about me. And as soon as my husband got out the car and walked over to him, I jumped out the car and went over to the friends who was hanging out with the guy. Because they all knew me and they hadn't seen me in a while. I said, hey, I haven't seen you. What's up? And they called me Pat at the time. Pat, it's so good to see you. Da, da, da. But I had to make sure they knew that who this man was dealing with him had to deal with me. Didn't need, they didn't need to jump him. You know, that was like, yo, so I was trying to distract them, but they knew they wanted to see what my man was going to do to him, right? And they weren't going to intervene because I knew that they didn't like the way he treated me, but they couldn't intervene because they were afraid of him as well.
Yeah.
So, but they were like, oh my God, we're going to see him get, you know, what he wants to get. And you got to understand, my husband is a martial arts icon. And at
Yeah.
that time, my husband was peak in his fighting time. So
Mm.
he had, you know, he just reeked terror. You know what I'm saying? And I don't know what he said to him, but I know he did all the talking.
Mm.
And so it was like at that point I was pissed off, you know, because I'm still, you know, 18 years old hood rat, and I'm like, yeah, and so I ran over to them and yeah, and I don't even love you, and this is who I love. You go near me again, and you know, so my husband said, get in the car, get in the car. You're making the situation worse. I have this
Yep.
under
Yep.
control.
Yep.
And I will tell you that was the worst thing I could have done. I could have gotten my husband shot. I could have gotten him arrested. I could have did so many horrible things. But this was 4 years of terror. I
Yeah.
needed this. I needed to see fear in this
You needed the
man's
closure.
eyes.
You needed that closure.
I needed it. And
Yeah.
but the thing though, the reason why I brought up all this, and I know this was important, was because that I thought while I was going through it was the worst part of my time of my life. Even to this day, I've never felt fear like I felt as an adolescent dealing with this crazy man. But if I was to change, if I was to go back, I wouldn't change it. I wouldn't change not one thing, because I grew to such an amazing person, to
Yes.
such a powerful person because of those experiences.
Yes.
And it was the makeup. I literally will go back to that 16-year-old, that
Mhm.
17-year-old, even that 14-year-old, and pat her in the back and say, "Girl, you were amazing. I'm so proud of you. Because of you, I am who I am today."
So why did they call you Pat? Was that your middle name or?
No, I just told people to call me Pat. My name is Odette, and it was rare, and I was like, I don't like Odette. Call me Pat. And I had the whole high school calling me Pat. That's the power of a person. A person can say their name, and
But
yeah,
you know what the thing about it is? I love what you just said, because I mean there are, I don't know how many, but I know there are a lot of young girls out there who go through similar situations,
yeah,
and they may not have that Mutaka Bay, or they may not have a person like your husband, but the thing with me as a father with two girls, if I heard about this, oh my goodness, I would have to definitely step to whoever it is, and you have to make your presence known. So I definitely love what you just said. Your story, that is so intriguing and it's so inspiring. Thank you so much.
But one of the things I do want to tell you is
Mhm.
a lot of it I didn't share with my dad, who my dad
Yeah,
was an amazing. He would have gave his life for my life.
yeah,
And if he knew half of what I went through, he would have been so disappointed in me not sharing it with them. So one of the
yes,
things I'm going to share with you is read the energy of your daughter's change.
yeah,
Okay, because things might be occurring that they don't feel comfortable to tell you, and they're changing, and you want to, and then you're like, okay, something's changed. I need to know why. You need to
mhm.
talk to me, and Daddy will fix it, and I won't be mad at you. You
Yeah.
know.
One of my daughters went through something. I mean, one of the guys from her school, was doing something similar, but it wasn't as extreme. And I definitely had to talk to him and be like, "Yo, that's my
And
daughter.
I
You
think
don't go there."
yeah, another kid. So I
Hmm.
think for me, this was a man.
Yeah.
I, I didn't want my dad to get hurt. It wasn't like a kid, and my dad could talk to him, and
Yes.
but
Yes.
this was another man. So it was a drug dealer. He was shooting people. So
Mm, mm,
I was like, I can't. I have to protect my family. I'll
yes.
do.
Yes.
You got no. I'm not interested. Or you're gonna have to shoot me, but you're not gonna go after my dad. That was
Mhm.
my thing. Um, and I had to be tough enough. I just had to
Yeah.
deal with it. I had to not put my family in danger, but at the same time, not demean myself, not
Yes. Yes.
give
Yes.
in, you know. So
Hmm. Definitely.
pretty crazy.
Wow.
Okay, your
Uh,
next question.
Tell us about having your first son. LaGuardia and everything. How was that?
Well, I had my first son at 21 years old.
Mm-hmm.
That was at an age where all my friends were still partying. So that was
Mm.
really hard. It felt a little lonely. That was also when I was started training at 18. So I wasn't competing yet. I was still a very young rank. I was probably like, so once I went into LaGuardia, let me just fill in the blank if it's okay. Once I went into
Okay,
LaGuardia,
definitely.
I met my husband. I started training with him right away. And,
Okay.
and, and when,
Can I ask you one question?
sure.
Um, do you think that I'm looking at it from the perspective, do you think that you were at a young age, you met your husband, but at the same time you were going through a lot of stuff with this guy? Do you think one of the reasons that you got so close to your husband was because he represented a figure of protectiveness, and at the same time he was a good person? Do you think that
Um,
was reasons?
no,
Hmm.
no. And the reason why is because I believe I was with my husband in another life.
Okay. All right.
because I had some premonition that we were together and we had a lot of sons.
Mm-hmm.
And he was whatever time it was like maybe 1,000 years ago or whatever. But whatever time it was, he would go out and go to battle and come back. And he had a high position, and I also had a high position in our village or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And one time he left to go to battle, and our village got raided, and I was killed.
Mm-hmm.
And so this was, I believe, our chance to finish that love
Okay.
story.
Okay. Okay.
So I would have found him anyway.
Definitely.
But one of the main things that I want to get across is my husband won't be with me always.
Yeah.
So it is really me and up to me to know
Mm-hmm.
how to defend and protect myself.
Yes.
And
Yes. Yes.
I so that experience didn't help me find a man to take care of me. That
Mm-hmm.
experience helped me find ways to protect myself, to
Definitely.
know how to protect myself.
Okay.
Because and I maintain that because I didn't run to daddy.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I didn't go to another guy to fix it.
Yeah. Yes.
I'm gonna have to
Yes.
fix it myself. But
Yes.
then when it involved my sister, and I had Mataka Bear, you know what I'm saying? Like, duh, come on.
What does Kinyamba means?
It means ruler of self, ruler of himself, slave to God.
Wow, it's funny because when you said that, I said like the word Islam, I self Lord and Master, control of oneself. When
But
you said
it's not Islamic, it's African. I can't tell you. I don't know which dialect though.
no,
It's African.
when you said about protecting yourself, when you said about protecting
Oh,
yourself, the word
oh,
that came into my mind was Islam. I self Lord and Master, the control of
oh, I'm
oneself.
sorry.
So no, it's fine. Once you said that, that's the word that came in. That's the word that kind of came in my mind. You know, that was
Right.
funny you said that. So after that, tell us about FIT and why FIT.
I always love fashion. Like I told you, once I got into out of the hood and I was going to Queens, I was decked out. I would get dressed up. I was already tall. I'm 5'9", but I
Yeah.
wasn't very, very thin like the models that look all emaciated. I
Mm-hmm.
liked a little shape, and and so I loved fashion. And I actually went to FIT not for fashion, but more for marketing. So it's
Okay.
fashion marketing aspect of it.
Mm.
And once I graduated from there, I went more on business. So, which was I focused on the marketing aspect. And I
All
think
right.
what was amazing to me is if you think of, do you remember the pet rock or the mood ring? Do you ever remember those
Yeah,
things?
I remember the mood rings. I remember the mood
Okay.
rings.
So a pet rock literally was a rock. They probably found a bunch of these rocks, and then they would put it in a case and say, "This is your new pet," and you could give it a name, and you could take it to work, and they sold millions of them. I know. Mood ring was something that had some type of stone that, based on
Yeah.
your temperature, would change color,
Yes.
and they
Yes.
sold that. And the only reason why they were able to do it was based on the marketing.
Mm-hmm.
And they were able to convince these people that this thing like a rock or this thing like a ring had a lot of power, had a
Wow.
lot of purpose, and could soothe your life. Buy this rock, put it on your desk. You're having a bad day, talk to the rock or the chia pet or whatever, those really stupid, worthless things that they made millions of dollars. And I'm
Oh
like, okay, that's the business I want to get into, marketing. So
my
whatever selling, whatever it is, whether it's fashion, whether it's food, whether it's all kinds of stuff, a rock, if you have the skill to market it.
market, right. How many
So I,
years did you do FIT? Were you at
uh,
FIT? 2
2 years.
years?
So I
All right.
went to LaGuardia for 2 years and got my associate, and then went to FIT for 2 years under a scholarship. Everything was grants and scholarship.
Oh,
And
that's dope.
FIT, my bachelor's of
Mm-hmm.
science in in marketing and fashion industry. And so I graduated with a bachelor's of science with no student loans.
That's dope. So in 2010, you decided what to go into health
Like,
psychology.
yes. So I found that although my love was marketing, that I had a knack of getting people to talk to me and
Okay.
pulling it out of people
Mm,
and getting them to feel better about themselves. And so I realized, so I remember so I was always training. Once I actually started martial arts when I was 9, and I
oh,
started when I spent the summer in Jamaica, and then I just want to go back and say that. And then when I came back to the States, my father continued me training martial arts, and I did for a year until I didn't like it. My
okay.
instructor at the time was a little strict, and I wasn't into that mode of discipline. So I stopped, and then I started again at 18 when I was with my husband. And so I've been training nonstop.
Mm.
And when you're with a lifer, this is what he does. He eats, sleeps, and breathes martial arts. He's on the toilet training. Okay, literally. Um, so your question is never how often do you train. Your question is when do you not train. That's your
Yes,
question.
yes,
But,
yes, yes,
but
yes.
um, so my life became martial arts, and I'm always about empowering. I was about I'm going to be the best of myself. No one's ever going to take advantage of me. I'm never going to feel threatened again. If somebody threatened me like that, I'm going to take them out and call it a day. And dealing with this 4 years of anguish, like, I was never going to deal with that again. Um, and and just imagine if that man touched me and I broke his nose,
Oh,
or I ripped out his groin. You know what I'm saying?
yeah.
That would have been it. I wouldn't have had to deal with 4 years of that. And so there was always like an analogy in my thinking that I need to get better, and I need to learn more, and be the martial artist to make my husband and the system proud. So very early I started training women. My
Mhm.
husband is a Muslim. So we were doing a lot of activities, martial art activities in the Muslim community,
Mhm.
where Muslim women needed female martial artists to train them.
Yes, yes,
So,
yes.
so that's where it really started. Where from when I was pregnant with Kiyumba, I was
Hmm.
started my. Now the interesting part of being a teacher, first of all, I'm that type of teacher that I don't believe that there are bad students. I believe that there could be bad teachers, unless
Yes,
a teacher is stuck with too many students. But I
yeah.
believe that you need to find a student's learning curve and
You got to
use that
find the way,
to learn.
proper way to teach them.
Yes.
Yes,
So
yes.
I am a phenomenal teacher.
Hmm.
And the thing about teaching is you can't teach what you don't understand. So you really need to understand what you're doing. So I
Yeah.
had to understand martial arts. I had to not just understand the big picture, I had to understand the in between moves and the reasoning behind the in between moves. And by me
Hmm.
understanding it, I
Hmm.
lived it. I became more natural.
How did you
So I
know
don't.
that? Tell me something. How did you know that? Because a lot of you got a lot of younger sisters out there. How did you know that your husband was the right person? Was it a situation? Was it something he said? How did you know that?
My husband's fine. I was like, damn, I got that's I'm gonna get that. As a matter of fact, me and my friend, we bet who was gonna get him first. And I promiscuous person. I'm not dealing with a lot of guys, but that
Yes.
I was gonna fight, you know. And and so when he started talking to me, I was like, jackpot, jackpot. But I was never desperate.
Yes.
So I was like,
Yes.
yeah, you got to work a little bit for this brother. But I was
Yes.
I was I was leaving breadcrumbs.
All right. All
You know,
right.
so, yeah,
Oh, that
yeah.
is dope. That is dope. Did you guys have a what they call a traditional wedding, or what was it like?
Nope, we didn't have a traditional wedding. The craziest part, he said when he met me that if we're still together in 5 years, he will marry me. And I was like, that is so unromantic. You know what I'm saying? I was like, that's the worst marriage proposal I've ever heard. But that was the time where, you know, he was a gladiator. He's not from this dimension. He's from another um, time
He's from the
zone.
warrior dimension. The warrior dimension.
It's like he don't even take boots off. You know, I mean, he's a gladiator. He walks forward all the time. So that was the best I was going to get. And that's the thing is I'm blessed because my husband loves 100%. So there's nothing about him. He either likes you or he don't like you. And if he loves you, he gives.
Yeah.
And so.
And plus with warriors, a lot of times you have to earn that respect, and you have to earn that, earn it, you know, so that's a good thing.
Yeah. I appreciated his candidness because it was this was him. This is who it is.
Anyway, yeah.
Or leave it. I'm not a suit person. I'm a sweatsuit person. I wear sneakers all the time because all the time. I have nobody to impress. He would spend money on food and make sure our lights were on, and we had everything we needed in the house before he buy clothes for himself.
Because those are necessities: food, clothing, shelter.
Yeah, he wasn't into nice fancy cars to impress other women. He didn't care about that. He was so secure. He didn't. He is a man's man. I am truly blessed. We've been together going on 41 years.
So you've been training over 40 years. What keeps you going? What's the motivation?
Martial arts is not about physicality. Martial arts is life. It is mental and it's spiritual. And the more you grow in martial arts, the more you grow in yourself.
Yes.
The more you learn more of who you are and what makes you tick. And more the inner peace shines inside. So it's kind of like the more I love myself, the more I learn to love everything else that's going on around me. And the more I learn to not even worry about what I can't control.
So it's just like when the neophytes enter the Egyptian mystery system or the Egyptian temples. And one of the things that said on top was to know thyself, you know. So once you know thyself, everything is peace and everything is one. So from you could say from that aspect.
But let me explain to you why that's so important. You are given with a gift that you can kill in so many different ways within seconds.
Yes.
And that comes with a major responsibility. And the major responsibility is to be able to walk in the divine light of peace, love, and tranquility. If you use that to hurt, to manipulate, to dictate, then it's kind of like you're opening yourself to a dark side. This is a real live Star Wars.
Yes.
You know, and it's so funny because when I train girls, and I train a lot of young girls, and I'm training them, and they might come to me very naive and timid and stuff like that, and then they learn and they smell in their own piss, you know, where they're like, "Oh man, power! I can hurt somebody," and then they go. And then their demeanor changes. Where I said, Luke, you're coming into the dark side. Come back.
Because that's ego. That's ego talking.
Yeah. I start to restructure them. I said, no. You cannot use this for bad.
Yes.
You use this for good.
Yes. Because the more power you receive is the more the ego pulls you into that other side. Because elevating. Yes. Because you're elevating yourself. You know, the Kundalini's rising. The spiritual energies are rising.
And that's the thing for me is I believe that a lot of dark energy can develop a life of its own if you give it too often.
Yes, if you feed it.
So you have to be really careful not to lean into that side. And
Yeah.
I'm pure divine light. Okay,
Yeah.
because like I
Definitely.
said, I believe that I am accountable for everything that I do, and I have to, and nothing is you get away with nothing. It's all recorded,
Yes.
and
Yes.
it's all recorded. And now it doesn't mean that it's never forgiven, because it
Yeah.
is forgiven if you move into say, oh wow, I did effed up things
Yeah.
as a teenager. I hurt people, so
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, I need to fix this,
Yeah.
and um, and so it's like I know better now. There's a maturity, and I'm using the martial arts to help other people find
Yeah.
that spark themselves.
What was it like receiving your first black belt from the swarm system? From the swarm system. Swarm system.
Okay, so again, my husband is a gladiator. Okay, he trained in a dojo that had no air condition, no water fountain. We barely were allowed bathroom breaks, and we trained for probably like 4 or 5 hours
The same way
almost
it
every.
is. Yep, that's how it is.
So we couldn't even have bathroom breaks because he would assume we were drinking water. We were thirsty. We had to drink our own sweat, literally.
Mm,
We with and when you think of, well, what would you do all that time? You had calisthenics, you did, you stretched, then you had to do weapons, then you had to do katas, then you had to do sparring.
mm,
And then Sunday you had to compete against other schools that was just
mm.
as devastating as your school. Now,
Yes.
in my situation, I was the only female in my dojo for the first 10 years of my training.
Mm,
We didn't have ceremonies, we didn't have structures, whatever my husband wanted to train. And my husband was a freaking, and is a freaking martial arts genius.
mm.
He dissects and interprets and comes up with things that is just phenomenal.
What
Sidagoo
sign is
Matata,
what sign is your husband?
he's a Sagittarius.
All right, all right, all right.
How I knew I was being promoted was when I would go to tournaments, and I would say, okay, I'm in a green belt division, yeah, green belt, and our rank was at the time white, yellow, green, purple, and black. No, yeah, no, we didn't have purple, white,
Hmm.
yellow, green, brown, and black,
Yes,
something like
yes.
that.
Yeah.
And so it's not a lot of ranks. We didn't have like first level green, second level green, first level brown. We didn't have any of that. We
Hmm.
wore a sash, so we were more on the kung fu side, even though we were a
Okay.
blended system.
All
Swan
right.
martial arts is blended of karate, kung fu, jiu-jitsu, and kickboxing.
Hmm.
And within karate is Shotokan and Yomaquan. In kung
Yeah.
fu,
Yeah.
it's Wing Chun, uh, I'm sorry, Chole Fat, Ming,
Hmm.
um, Lama Pai. Okay, you got it, And
Yes,
then we
yes.
also have BJJ. My husband's a black belt in Brazilian Jiu Jitsu.
Hmm.
He's also a black belt in Sanukes under Master Moses Powell. So these are my grandparents. Moses Powell is not my instructor. He's my grandfather as an
Yeah.
instructor. Does that make
Yeah.
sense? Even though
So
I knew
so
him. Huh?
so he's also my great grandmaster also.
Okay, you know what I'm talking about.
Ed
Yeah,
Pugh,
yeah.
because Ed Pugh came through him.
Right. So you're in the lineage too. So
Yes.
um so my instructor is only my husband. And
Mm,
so we had all these different systems that we had to work with. And each system sometimes contradicts the other, but
yeah.
he was able to make it where it merged so that it made sense to what we were doing.
Yes.
So when I became a black belt, he was like, okay, now you can go into the black belt division. So there was no ceremony, there was no certificate, there was no cartwheels, there was no like graffiti, that
Yeah.
graffiti that sparked in the, yeah, like celebrate, no party. It was like, and I was like, but I had the same color sash that was black, so I didn't even get a new belt. It was just
Yeah.
this. And I had the same color sash that was all worn out and all for a good 30, 40 years. I just
Mm,
recently got a new belt. And
mm.
that was when I got my grandmaster as a ninth degree. So, but with my students, I'm doing something different. I'm making sure it's structured. Time is so different. We can't do
Okay.
like it, or they do have a promotion. They do have. It took me 7.5 years to get my black belt,
Okay.
where now it takes about 5.5 years for my
Okay.
girls to get a black.
Mm. Which styles are prevalent in Swarm today, as far as the fighting styles?
Oh, and the fighting styles,
Yeah.
I guess it would more be Yomakwan,
Okay.
the karate. In the katas, it would be more like the praying mantis and the hanga.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very
What?
oh, chule fa, very flowery,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah. 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 Definitely.
but not wusu, not like dancing.
Hmm.
It's like strikes and stuff.
What is it like? Like growing up with such reputable martial artists within your system, because there are a lot of people I know that are very they do a lot out there. What is it like?
I'm sorry, I understand your question, but you said they do a lot of what?
I mean,
Like
like,
a
what
lot of.
is it like? Because I know your husband knows a lot of different people in the swamp. He has a lot of great martial artists. What was it like being around these brothers or these sisters growing up at that to your
I
time?
I didn't think of it as a big deal because
Hmm.
I was always around them.
Yeah,
You understand?
yeah,
I remember I knew mat etiquette, so I knew my
hmm,
place.
yeah,
I that I if I always felt like I was always under rank.
hmm,
Um, I kind of I wasn't around too many women. I wasn't encouraged to make female martial art friends.
yeah,
They wore a different badge.
hmm,
They had a different patch, so we had nothing in common. They were my
yeah, yeah,
rivalry, and I would only deal with them when I had to either fight them or compete against them. Um, so when I would hear him talk to them, they were very polite, very cordial, very kind, but they didn't interact with me
yeah,
because, and I don't know, I don't think it was because I was a female. I think it was because I was under rank, you know.
hmm, yes.
But I would hear a lot of interesting stories. I would hear what they would say because I would just sit there and be quiet and listen to them talk. So it's pretty cool.
What
So I kind
inspired you?
of like inside, but I had never shared it because they weren't talking to me. It wasn't my business.
Yes, yes,
I
definitely.
saw them as regular humans that were incredibly gifted, dedicated their whole life to martial arts.
What inspired you to teach women for the past 20 years? What inspired you?
I I did see some stuff in not, and this is very few schools, and I have to say that majority of martial arts schools that I know is very well structured and very respectful to women. But there were those schools that used to pimp their women out, or women were being raped, or and what I mean by pimp women out is have their female students sleep with other instructors for a favor or sleep with them themselves. And um and it was, again, we're talking about the 80s, and it's not like it's like ancient times, but it was, I think for that, it was kind of like you just kind of looked the other way. You knew what was happening because they allowed it.
Yes.
It wasn't, but so it wasn't like it was rape, so they allowed it. So it's like, damn, that girl, man, she let these people dog her like that. That's how I would be like, she let these people dog her like that. That's messed up. And I wanted to create a safe environment where women can go and be and train by a female and get quality stuff. And then
Yes.
I wanted to give them the stuff that I thought would be perfect for just us,
Hmm.
because
Hmm.
majority of systems cater to men.
Yes.
So a lot of the fighting styles, or let's even, so one of the things I want to bring to your attention And I love MMA. I love BJJ, Brazilian Jiu Jitsu. I love boxing. I love all the sports arts. But the problem I have with sports arts is they don't teach us how to defend ourselves. They teach us how to fight. And women after high school, we don't get into fights. We get attacked. We
Yes.
primarily get attacked. So how does boxing help you when someone grabs you from the back or has a knife to your throat or a gun to your head? All right. You're not going to jump in a boxing stance. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, and a lot of even martial arts that teach self-defense that's geared to men is like fighting. So it's like jab reverse. And a lot
Yeah.
of attackers is not going to jab reverse. They're going to
Yeah.
grab us. They're going to pull our hair. They're
Yeah.
going to, and that's different than, so it's a whole different scenario. So I kind of focus on the scenario of attacks.
Mm.
I don't necessarily, I mean, we still do sparring, but not as much.
Yeah.
Us as well. I'm not interested in getting us injured, you know, and the sparring. I'm interested in us knowing how to fall, knowing how to deal with grabs, knowing how to deal with. We do katas, we do weapons, we'll do sparring, we'll do bag work, we'll do kickboxing and all that other stuff. And we'll do that. That's incorporated. But also what's incorporates knife skills, how to handle knives, how to handle. And then we'll go as they advance into swords and spears and
Yeah.
tiger or size or whatever,
Yeah.
sickles, you
Mm-hmm.
know. But it's primarily the first thing is dealing with the scenario of what we have out here in the street.
So, human trafficking is on the rise. You say 80% and up. Most of it is for sex. We see the Weinstein situation. We see how human trafficking is on TV and things like that. Tell us how bad it is right now, and what could be done.
Well, first, let me give you what human trafficking is. Human trafficking is like, if you could look at it like a pie, and within the pie, you see slices, like pieces. And so there's facets of human trafficking. There's sex trafficking. There's labor trafficking. Labor, that's slavery. Believe it or not, they're kidnapping people and using them as slaves. Okay, and that exists. All right. Then there's what you call
Organ harvesting.
there's forced marriage. So you're, you know, forcing someone to marry them. There's something called forced surrogacy. And what that is you kidnap somebody, you rape them till they get pregnant, and then you take their baby and either sell the baby to someone who wants to buy a baby, or you groom the baby to be for the baby to be sex trafficked, or you cut the baby up and sell it for parts, and that's the other part, which is organ harvesting. So the thing is about forced marriage, forced surrogacy, sex trafficking, labor trafficking, all those things had existed for thousands of years. The concubine, slavery, you know, and all that. What is different? What makes this different now? And why is jumped so high is organ harvesting. We're now in a society where our body is outliving our organs. And that's occurring because of our environment. We are living in a highly toxic radioactive environment. Our foods are synthetics. Our environment is all these electronics, okay, which gives off radioactivity.
Yes, radiation.
And we're constantly medicated. We're constantly medicated. We have an ache and pain, medication. And so as a result, our detoxing organs like our liver and our kidneys and our even our digestive organs are burning out or dying. And so there are more people that need organ transplants than there are organs available, because of these organs, you can't get them unless someone dies.
Yeah.
So what happens is a person is actually worth more dead because they're cutting every part of their body. And we're talking they can sell the cornea, their eyes, their lungs, the liver, the heart, their kidneys, their reproductive parts of their bodies. All right, and there's a market for it. Now we're in like a modern day Dracula and Frankenstein. So the Frankenstein is just cutting up people's part and giving it to people. And you've had people, because it's illegal for you to sell your organs, because there are places people are selling their kidneys because you can survive off of one kidney. And there are people who are selling, their kidney, which is illegal for you to sell your kidney. But you have people with deep pockets that are able to I need a new liver, so I'm blood type this, and that's where they'll traffic you based on your blood type. They'll all of a sudden you disappear because they know what your blood type is, or they'll just kidnap a whole bunch of people and they'll think, or they'll have somebody in the system, like in their organization, and they're like, they know who everybody that's in their organization, they know what their blood type, because we'll prostitute her for the first 5 years, and this is 15 years old. They'll snatch her at 15 until she's 20 and she's all used up. Then we'll make her a slave, and then when we find out we have no more use of her, we'll sell her body parts. But if I can make if someone with big deep pockets have this blood type, then we'll just cut her open right now, because we can make a lot of money by selling her heart or something like that. And so it's like the human trafficking. They'll shift you from division based on where they need you. Your life is no longer yours. So when I said it's a horror story, the other part that they extract, and this is where it affects us as African American, is melanin. Now, melanin is a molecule that helps, and everybody has melanin in their body. Everybody. Doesn't make a difference what color. But the darker you are, the more that you have. And melanin is not just helps with the UV rays and the sun rays. It's actually a conductor. It helps as an electricity conductor goes through you. And you're an amazing vessel. And the more melanin you have, the more that your body is able to recuperate. The more that your DNA is able to repair itself. Yes. The more that you're able to distract radiation. And we're surrounded by radiation. So this is a big deal. Definitely. So they figured out how to, and this is again a conspiracy theory. Not a lot of people will say it really exists, but I've seen a lot of videos that said it does, but I'm just getting it out there that it is a conspiracy theory. But I kind of believe it, because I can't believe that so many Black people are disappearing for just heart, lungs, and kidneys. Yes. And so they figured out how to distract melanin from the skin, and they are using it like a fountain of youth. And they're helping people who have cancer, or who are, and it's helping people with premature aging. As a matter of fact, someone with more melanin aged 10 years less than someone with less.
I think that's the
and
black.
What they're talking about, like the body. I'm sorry, I know I'm doing so much talking.
No, definitely not. Definitely not. I think that's the black don't crack theory, I guess.
Exactly. And it's kind of like it's a different thing where maybe the average skin was called cell turnover rate, where when cell turns over like every 28 days, that means it renews itself. But if you have a lot of melanins, every 25 days. And if you're aging, it's 30 days. And just those 5 days is a big difference of you losing your elasticity. So the other part, though, now what I want to talk to you about is the vampire part of human. And the vampire part of human trafficking is there's a substance, again, it's conspiracy theory, okay? And you don't have to believe me, just do your research. But there's a product called adrenochrome. adrenochrome, which is basically it's it's a liquid that is secreted from someone's blood who has a high level of adrenaline. Now, what adrenaline is you put it develops in your blood. It's a hormone that your adrenal gland releases every time you're afraid.
Okay.
And when you deal with fear, which is stress or the fight and flight, about 50 different hormones are released from your adrenal gland. And one of them is adrenaline. And they manage to use that as another fountain of youth. And you got to have like deep pockets for it, because it gives you like this amazing high from what I heard, and it's also highly addictive. But it rejuvenates your blood, so it's like you're drinking someone's blood. The interesting part about the adrenochrome, it is most potent when it comes from someone who's 10 years and younger.
Wow.
So that means that they're terrifying, torturing, mutilating these kids before they drain their blood. And this is our world. This is our world. And this is why you're saying so many of us are disappearing. So I'm not on I don't walk around and talk about human trafficking, because that is I talk about it, but I don't know. All I can do is just tell people to protect themselves, to be aware of their environment, to, most important, listen to their intuition. Listen to that part of that brain, which is on the right side of the hemisphere, that alerts you that something doesn't feel right. And don't ignore it. Don't ignore it. Be aware of your environment. If you see a stranger more than once, that's not a coincidence. Why am I seeing this person? Also know that a trafficker, and people just assume a trafficker is this big, mean, creepy guy, but a trafficker could be a child. A child that's doomed to lure you. A trafficker could be a high school kid that invites you to a party.
That's what they said. That's what Weinstein did, because he had other young kids who went to certain schools to bring their friends and other people, to come to his house. They also say that 83% of sex trafficking is children that live in regular homes. I want people to know that. Regular homes. And that took me a minute to process that. I said, what? Regular homes? Because I thought it was something like in movies, you get people from other countries and, you do whatever, I thought it was like that. But once I read that, I said, that is crazy.
83% of sex trafficking victims in the United States are United States citizens. 83%.
Wow.
So we're not talking about someone they snatched from overseas and brought here. They're bringing them here. During the Super Bowl, when we had the last Super Bowl here, they had a busload of kids taken to a hotel for these creeps to just do whatever they're doing with them, and then they send them kids back home. And you could imagine, like, a 16-year-old cool kid, a trafficker goes to her and says, I'll give you $500 to bring that little girl over to my house. And she's like, oh, sure, I'll do it. $500, I'll do it. It's a multi-trillion-dollar industry that has so many people involved. Why it's so successful, from police officers, teachers, attorneys, and of course doctors. Okay, because the people who are cutting these people open have to know about the anatomy. And I'm not saying it's just only physicians. It could be veterinarians. It could be people that work in the morgue, that know about the human body.
What do traffickers look for in these kids? I mean, low self-esteem, a broken home. What do they look for?
Well, the trait that attracts a trafficker, it could be the vulnerable. And the vulnerable, those from broken homes, foster care, The one that I told you that from 3 years old, that knew fear, the one that found no love at home, that goes in the street all the time. Then it's the forgotten. The
Mm,
forgotten are the runaways, the societal rejects. Then there's the non-supervised,
mm,
those that go to the mall and nobody knows they're at the mall, or they're hanging out. The parent. It's not a bad parent. They're just so busy. And then the drug addicts
yeah,
are because they get high in drug dens and they don't know where
yeah,
they're at. They're easily snatched. And then the other one is characteristic. And
mm,
characteristic is like what I said, melanin. So
yeah,
um, someone that's dark skinned might be more of attraction. But then there's a personality trait. Okay, so the personality trait is and this is why I love martial arts, is because martial arts enhances self-esteem, and by it
yeah,
enhances self-esteem, it pulls you kind of out of the radar of the
yeah.
predator. And
Mm.
so, um, and I'm just going to say this real quick, and I know we're going into like an hour and a half.
It's fine.
and
It's fine. It's fine.
um, but one of the main things I like to look at society is in three different categories. You have the sheep, and the sheep
Hmm.
is like maybe 85% of the average people in our society. And the sheep go to work, they pay their bills, they are honorable people, and they're there for their neighbors, but they don't address violence. They know it exists, but they don't think it'll happen to them, and they don't address violence. Then there are the wolves. The wolves are the smallest of the group. The wolves are the opportunists, the murderers,
Mm.
the muggers, the traffickers, the rapists, the manipulators, the narcissists, the dictators, the ones that hurt people and take from people. They're not as many, but their
Yeah.
goal is to find the weakest of the sheep and take
Hmm.
advantage of them for whatever way they're going to take advantage of them. And then maybe like I'm sorry. And then maybe like the 10% is the sheepdog. And that's
Okay.
who we are. And
Hmm.
we're just like, we look just like the sheep. We go to work, we pay our bills, we're kumbaya and all that. Except the difference is we deal with violence. And
Yeah.
because we have that tone that we deal with violence, the wolves stay away from us. They avoid us at all costs. And people who have sheepdog mentality will be like in the law enforcement or in the armed forces or whatever like
Hmm.
that. My
Yeah.
goal is to convert sheep into sheepdog. So
Hmm.
even as a child, if you teach a child to be in
Yeah, I lost you for a second. Yeah,
hi,
we back.
I'm sorry.
We good.
Um, and even if you can be the sheep, it what I'm trying to do is get the even a child to look a parent in the eye or look an adult in the eye. No, ma'am, yes, ma'am, but have this assertiveness. Like, this is someone that we know we cannot manipulate. We know we cannot control.
Yeah.
They're going to give us a fight. So we're
Mm.
going to go after the weaker person. Or another thing to be careful, because the primary age a child will be abducted is 15 years old, when they're
And that's
just,
what I was about to
getting
ask
into
you.
high school.
I was about to say the same
Yeah.
thing. Does brain development have plays a part? Play a part in that? Because
Well,
adolescence, childhood.
yeah, feeling themselves. They think they're old enough. They think they know everything. They are giving more freedom where they can go with their friends. They can spend the night out. They're not monitored as often. And predators take advantage of that. They're also on social media a lot. And by saying things like, I'm going again to my friends, and they tell where they're at. They tell themselves. They tell their story. And predators look and study. There's even like saying like if you have things in your car, well, you're letting people know all about you. Like you
Yeah,
let
yeah,
people know
yeah,
you have kids, you got and I love my dog, and I have a little dog, and and you're letting people
yeah,
know your life,
yeah. Did
and
you see?
you're letting
Did
people.
you see? Did you see A Call to Courage?
No, no, no.
A Netflix movie called Call to Courage, and one of the quotes that she said in there, promise them heaven and they will follow you to hell.
Yeah.
Promise them heaven and they will follow you to hell.
There's
So
another sad
Mhm.
story too, in that a hungry child will do anything.
Yes, definitely, definitely.
Yeah.
Wow. How can people how can my stream fam? This is what I call all my followers, the people who watch this program. How can the stream fam out there contact you on social media or
My Instagram is Sidagoo, spelled Sidagoo, Sidagoo, which is a title. Um,
Mhm,
Sidagoo means mother of Swam, top female instructor, which I'm beyond that. I created my own system under my husband's system, which is
mhm.
Sisters Warriors Against Madness. And my website is drodetterussell.com. I'm sorry, drodetterussell.net, N-E-T. Dr. DRODETTERUSSELL.net. And Odette Russell is Facebook. You can message me. I'll probably get it. I
Uh,
tend to respond. Yeah.
Before we go into you demonstrating any of these self-defense techniques, I think we need to go into the wheel of topics and let's spin the wheel and see what
Oh,
the let's go into the
oh,
wheel of topics and see what the wheel of topics is talking about right now. All right, let's spin the wheel. Humility.
I love
Wow.
it. That's a perfect
Hey,
topic.
what does
Okay.
humility mean to you?
So, humility is really important. As a martial artist, or even having the understanding of learning the anatomy, which I'm going to teach you the vulnerable areas of the human anatomy, there's like a sense of power. And that sense of power, behind it comes a sense of responsibility. And that responsibility is you have to have humility. You have to have the understanding that um, that you can't use it to hurt, to control, to manipulate, to disfigure. You have to have real control of yourself. And as you grow as a person, the best part of you and that shines is the character that you build inside of you. And so it's not just about being loyal, it's not just about being disciplined or dedicated, but it's just about being humble. It's about knowing that you can learn from an insect. Knowing, because that in martial arts, there's one system that you learn how to
Hmm.
take out
Mm.
a grown man by being a praying mantis, you know? Or,
Yes.
and I know that for me, I learned some of my best lessons from children
Mm.
because children have honesty. Like, wow,
Yeah. They're so
I
pure and
forgot.
innocent.
I
Yes.
forgot that thinking. But you
Mm.
can't be open to see the best lessons if you think you know everything.
Yes.
If you think
Yes.
that person has something to give you, because the
Yes.
person is might talk differently than you, or the
Mm.
person might look different, or the person might not be as old as you, or might not be
Mm.
on the same level as you think. I have a PhD in health psychology,
All right.
and I learned from my granddaughter, who's 2 years old. you know, um, and that's amazing. I hope
That's
that.
great. So you is any techniques you want to show us before we get out of here?
Well, I can you see him? Okay, that's Bob over there. He's been really patient
Hi
all
Bob.
day.
Hi Bob. Bob been
And I
waiting patiently.
Bob turns down, boy, I'm gonna freak out. Okay, let me get up. So if you can see us, okay.
Yes. We can see you perfectly.
Okay. So what I want to show you is that basically, I'm not going to show you a whole lot because we don't have a lot of time.
Yeah.
Basically, what body has is two eyes, a throat, okay, and a groin, ears, the temple, and the nose. This part here is a waste of time because this is hard.
Okay.
So and you hit like this, and some men it might even be a turn on. Okay. Keep in mind that when we're striking, the areas that we want to strike is the areas that's going to cause the most damage with the least amount of power.
Okay.
All right. The problem is even when if I was to kick here, that would hurt him and maybe shock him, but not enough for him to want to beat my butt.
Yeah.
But if I hit and I do that, then now you see what I did?
You want to hit hard with soft.
Huh?
I said you want to hit hard with soft.
I want
because
to hit
certain areas is the soft parts.
Right. So I hit him, but I'll show you real quick. So let's say, for instance, poking me. All right. So I'll just put this like this, and he's crushing my carotid artery. My carotid artery feeds blood to my brain, which means I have only seconds before I might pass out. So I am to try to fight him from this. He's going to squeeze tighter.
Yes.
But if I kick him in the he might loosen it up.
Okay.
He might not let me, but he might loosen it up where I can get it off. And I can get him off the throat. If I hit with the or I hit with what we call tiger's knot, or I crush the throat, from here I can dig in the eyes. Yeah. Okay? I can elbow. Then I can knee him. But the key is that I don't stop. Yes. So let's say like I'll come here, pop, hit, pop. You know what I'm saying? So
yes, definitely.
The same thing if he comes around me like this and he's choking me like this. My hands are here. It gets closer. My hands are already down. I'm out the groin. Yes. Once it's going or grab into his side, this loosens up, I can hit and go back. And it's not rocket science. I could do the same stuff. Dig in the eyes. Yeah. When I dig in the eyes, I use the thumb and grab. Yes. Okay?
You want to create hysteria in the mind. You want to create hysteria in the brain. You want the brain to be thinking so many different things that the person sooner or later has to let go.
No, he's thinking one thing. And the one thing he says, I should have never woke up this morning. That's what he's saying. Go back home to. So let's say he got a hood on. Okay? And again, he's choking me, right? And basically what I would do, if let's say he's not choking me, let's say like he's grabbing me and he's doing this, I'm gonna just cough in his face. Yeah. And you know, with Corona, it's like oh.
Definitely.
His face. It's all I need to do this.
Yes.
You understand?
Yes.
Now when I got the groin, I'm like, let's do this right. And I actually tied it so my girls, we go up the thigh, turn, That's nice, right? Yeah.
Oh, wow. I felt that right there, and I'm scared right now from over here.
That's only down.
Yes.
This pass is up, just hammer, sword, punch up, peck. You know what I'm saying? Just hit it up.
Yes, definitely.
But if you crush and pull, I like to turn. I like to turn it.
Yes.
Pull it.
Yes.
Okay. So with, let's say he has a hood and he's grabbing me or choking me. Again, I'm just gonna kick or knee, let him come down, hit, come down, turn.
Yes.
Maybe out.
Yes.
So
yes. Yes, yes, yes,
All right.
yes.
Let's talk about a cell phone. Cell phone is nasty. This is like a
Ah,
walk around hammer.
yeah,
You understand? If
yes,
I'm doing this part and it's on a horizontal, I'll
yeah,
hit.
yeah,
Okay. But if I
yes,
go this, now I hit that part. The other
yeah,
thing about the cell phone you don't realize is you can hit the corners. I can dig in the eyes.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Cell phone
W-
nasty.
One of the things I teach, one of the things I teach my daughters is that always make sure when you coming home, you have your keys in your hands. Have your keys in your hands, because the keys you also jab and poke. You know what I mean? And those are great weapons
Or a
also.
pen.
Yeah, or
Or a
pen.
pen.
Definitely,
So
definitely.
you're holding a pen, hold it like this, and then you
Yeah,
can hit all
yeah,
the area
yeah.
you have
Yes,
fun.
yes, yes.
Hit the
Oh my
throat, the trach.
God.
You hit up the nose. This is a death
Yes,
blow. With
yes,
the
yes, yes. You could
bladder.
you could you could embalm them.
I'll go up the arm. I'll go
Yes.
down the armpit.
Uh,
You know, and it's so much fun.
yeah.
Now, you know what I'm saying?
Yes,
It's
yes,
so much.
yes, yes, yes. Oh, my sister, it was so great talking to you. Is
Thank
that
you.
all right?
Thank you for putting up with me for an hour.
Man, I did not put up with you. I enjoyed every minute. We enjoyed it. My stream fam out there enjoyed it. And we are so grateful we had the opportunity to talk to you today, my sister.
I just want to say one thing that violence is strictly forbidden unless under legitimate self-defense.
Yes, definitely.
There is a high level of responsibility in knowing this. And the biggest part of it, the biggest tool that you have in your body that you can rely on for any attack is your brain.
Yes.
That you can rely on. And you need to use it to see how you can avoid the situation. Even though I told you what I showed you cannot work if you don't practice it.
Yes.
What I showed you will not work if you're not doing something in relations to something that you could have. If you could have avoided it, you should have avoided it. If you're wrong, it's not going to do you right.
Hmm. Well, my sister, it's about that time. And
Yes.
and I just like to give a deep bow to you. Oh,
Yes.
and let you know until we meet another time. All right, my
Yes, sir.
sister?
Yes.
Peace.
Thanks for
Jambo.
everybody.
Anytime.